Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. And in this episode, I have the author of Liver, My Journey of Transplant Survival. John Hoffman, welcome to the Dave Palma Show.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you, John. Obviously, I'm also a recipient of a couple of medical issues myself. One of the things I've had is probably a 13-year heart condition, which is meant to be genetic. Meant to be genetic, you know. They thought it was a heart attack at first. I've never had one, or I don't think I have anyway. But obviously, liver is obviously it's a serious part. Every organ is a serious part of the body, really. You know, liver and kidney does a lot of work for us. You know, the heart is a serious problem. You know, I've been a firefighter, and obviously CPR in the heart is, you know, and the lungs. But without going into any of that details, you've got a book out called Liver, My Journey as a Liver Transport, and it's a play of words because obviously, tell us what it means. Play of words.
Well, I wanted to, obviously highlight that it is a journey, but at the same time, you need to still live and still, look forward to things and be your best self. So, we did liver and the LIVE for live in capital and the lowercase r.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, let's have a look at your book. We'll just talk about your book in this episode because obviously it's your journey, isn't it, really? So, and then obviously people can get this anywhere, can't they, these books?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll get them to point in that direction at the end of the episode. I'm looking at the contents, and it looks like it's actually kind of going through your journey on each episode. So for episode 1, growing concern to small baby, and then
correct. Yeah.
So perhaps you could talk us through your journey, your life's journey with going through this book at the same time, and tell us your story.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I was born with biliary atresia, which is a genetic birth defect. And that breaks down the bile ducts of the liver. So fluids aren't able to be passed back and forth. I was diagnosed at 6 weeks, and I was referred to a gastroenterologist.
Right.
And after a multitude of tests, he diagnosed me with biliary atresia. So the only real cure is a transplant of the liver. There's a procedure they tried, which gives some people a few extra years. It did not work for me, probably because of how small I was. And so he collaborated with the Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh and got me on the transplant list. We waited until I was born December 1st, 1981. We waited till January 14th, 1983 for the transplant. Being so small, and transplantation of any organ at that time was still considered experimental. It was a pretty big risk, and my parents were forced to sign waivers and really did not know the outcome, that would come about. So obviously it was very stressful for them. The surgery itself was successful. I was in intensive care, and my parents started to notice that, when you're in end stage liver disease, you're kind of a dark yellow, and they noticed that my feet and my hands were starting to get pink, which means the liver. Right, exactly. The liver was starting to function as it should, so that was absolutely a good sign. Yeah. I remained in the hospital basically for 4 months. I'd improve, and then I'd have a complication, and that would be a setback. I'd have to stay in the hospital. So it took a long time for recovery, way longer than today. But I was finally healthy enough to go home. So I went home in April of '83. And aside from the many medications I had to take, I lived life as a pretty normal kid. I was in fourth grade when I had my start of complications. I think partly because I was so small and they didn't know as much about transplantation as they do today. There were things that they just couldn't factor for. So I started to have complications then. That got resolved. Basically, at that, I'd go into the hospital and I'd get a bolus of anti-rejection medicine to kind of calm those symptoms down, and it would bring my liver back to normal.
Yeah.
That happened again 3 or so years later. And at that time, they started to really talk about a second transplant. So they got me and my parents mentally prepared. I flew out to Pittsburgh my freshman year of high school for a full evaluation, to see if I was healthy enough, and also giving me an idea of what to expect. At this point, they had, slideshows of all the different tubes I'd be hooked up to and what side effects can occur and things like that. So that was very detailed, and for a high school teenager, it was pretty scary. Pretty scary, because now when I was a baby, I didn't know what was going on, but now I had a real sense of what was going to happen and the risk involved. So it was pretty a daunting task. I got placed on the list that next year. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't until my junior year I got placed on the list. And at that point,
Yeah.
I was getting sicker.
Oh,
I was a
wow.
teenager, so I didn't really, I did what I normally did, but I started coming home from school and taking a nap, sometimes sleeping through dinner, because my body was just, not as equipped to handle the rigors of just everyday life, of
Yeah.
school and things like that. So my parents knew what was going on. I was kind of oblivious, thankfully. But I kept declining, and luckily I was able to go to school and finish my junior year before the call came for my transplant. My second transplant was July 1st, 1999.
Yeah.
I was healthy enough to, walk off the plane and get in the ambulance myself. So, I mean, the doctors were pretty shocked at the condition I was in, considering, what my liver was not able to do. So I went into surgery. It was an 18-hour operation. The hardest part was getting the old liver out with all the scar tissue and things of that nature.
Right.
Well, once I came out, it was very successful. I had one minor setback that required another surgery, but other than that, I was out of the hospital about a week and a half, and then I stayed in the area. It's called the Ronald McDonald House in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I had visits, checkups every other day, just to make sure everything was going well. And then I was released, and I went back home and did the rest of my summer and started school on time. And other than adjusting to the medications, which took some time, I think the worst was my blood pressure medication. It would actually have the opposite effect. I'd be way out of breath and things like that. So
Right. Yeah.
they adjusted that and got everything under control. So I finished my senior year. I went to college.
Senior high school.
Right. So I finished, senior high school, and then I went to the University of Connecticut. Unfortunately, I didn't really have a degree in mind. I didn't really have a path, because up until the summer before my senior year, part of me didn't think I was going to make it. So I didn't plan real hard for any kind of future. So I wasn't very happy in college, and dropped out after about a year and started working. That's where I found my love of IT, of technology.
Mm-hmm.
So I eventually got a few jobs there. I started to feel kind of an anxiety and really a kind of depression. I had survived where two kids had to die in order for me to survive. And it was kind of a survivor's guilt, trying to figure out my way in the world and why I was, quote unquote, chosen to live. So it's hard. So I went to therapy and got, on some medication to help with the depression, and finally realized how I could help. And it wasn't until a couple of years later that I decided to write a book. I'd always been told, anecdotes and stories about when I was a baby, and I lived the second transplant, so I had plenty of memories of that, and I kind of wanted to put it all together for me, so my kids could know who I was, but also to try and share and give other people inspiration and knowledge and a perspective. So I published it in July of 2021, and it's been out for a little over a year. I've gotten some great feedback.
Oh wow, yeah, that's good. So you made this book during the pandemic, obviously, which
I did, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people tend to find time to do a lot of things like that. Or
yeah. I started. It was a 4-year process. I started in 2016-ish, and it took a while between the interviews of all the people and putting it together. It took a long time to get it all the way I wanted it. The actual publishing of it didn't take very long at all. Amazon and Barnes and Noble, they have some great tools. So that was the quote unquote easy part.
Of course. Yeah. No, that's never an issue.
No, that was easy.
Yeah. So this is obviously, so it's a collection of interviews, you're saying, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's a story, it's told from my perspective, but yeah, there are a lot of different viewpoints and different anecdotes in there.
Yeah,
absolutely. You're on mute, Dave.
Right, sorry to the listeners out there. I was on mute. I just took a little break while
it happens.
John was talking. Exactly, yeah. So let's take a look at the book. Obviously, it's going to repeat what you've been saying about your journey. But obviously, we could say it from the book's perspective, what the book's about. In terms of the chapters itself. So we start with Small Baby, Big Problem. What was that one? Sorry, yeah, Small Baby, Big Problem. So that's talking about obviously when you just born.
Right, my initial diagnosis.
Yeah, initial diagnosis.
Absolutely.
Then the Calm and Mr. Chaos. What's the Calm and Mr. Chaos about then?
That's a lot of about the waiting before my first transplant and the unknown. That's a lot of it that was about.
Oh right, okay, yeah, excellent. And then, but obviously you don't want to tell everyone because you want people to buy the book as well.
Right, absolutely.
So, floor N6A, obviously. So that must be the hospital floor you was on.
Yes, that's where I spent most of my time when I was waiting. It was part of an adult hospital, but it was the pediatric floor for
I see.
For liver transplant or liver disease patients. Spent a lot of time there. Yeah. Got to know a lot of the nurses really well.
Yeah. And what's A Nation Ignited? I mean, obviously, we don't want to see
there
a nation ignited.
There was a push in the 80s to start spreading awareness about organ donation, and there were a couple of things that occurred during that time that kind of sparked people to think about it and to spread awareness about it.
Right.
My parents did a press conference, just pleading with the country to focus on organ donation, and also a plea for my own organ, because there was no national network of that at that time. So sometimes you had to fight for yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. And then Crash, which is a very short and sharp name for a chapter, but
that told the story of one of the transplant, the donor stories that really advanced the transplantation landscape. That had nothing to do with me, but it was kind of the scenery of the times, what was going on with transplantation. You're on mute.
Sorry, I did it again. Sorry to all the listeners. Okay. I've had to do it because I've had a bit of a cough I caught from my daughter. Sure. So super spreader.
They like to share.
Yeah, they do. So right, so saying goodbye, that must be where you're saying goodbye to the hospital, I imagine.
that was, yeah, when I got the call and I had to say goodbye to my friends and
Oh,
my
your friends.
family.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I was a teenager and I had to leave
Oh,
home
you're a
and go
teenager.
get
Okay.
transplanted. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
So joyless holiday is kind of tied in with that. It must be like, okay, I had to go and say goodbye, and this was what
Right.
my
Well,
holiday was about.
okay. I don't know if we're skipping around, but yeah, I apologize. The saying goodbye was really, I had some very extreme complications before my first transplant. And my doctor said, if your family wants to be able to visit with him and have time with him, they should do that. So there
Right.
was a pretty grave moment. And that's what that
Right.
was. I
Right.
apologize. I
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
got
I'm
my
with you now.
chapters mixed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then a joyless holiday was around Christmas time when I was really struggling and I was on the list and my parents were trying to keep hope, but it was very difficult.
Yeah. So I suppose the handkerchief. I'm guessing as
I
well
can't
around it.
reveal too much, but
No. 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 Okay. Right.
it's a chapter of faith, and sometimes things happen that you can't explain.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll kind of like zoom through them and not kind of give too much away on it, because otherwise people have already read the book, haven't they? I suppose. But
Right.
I'd imagine healthy signs is that you're seeing things now that's getting better, I suppose.
Right.
You've got home.
Yep.
Uh,
That's where my
but then it's got elementary school, and you said you was a teenager at the time, so
right. That
going
was
back a bit.
just, yeah. Overall, elementary school was pretty, knock on wood, normal. But
Yeah, yeah,
I always had to. I my parents gave me my medicine. It was kind of like an olive oil like consistency. Gave me it in a shot glass
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
chocolate milk or apple juice. So
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
had to deal with that. Any field trips, any overnight trips we went on, my mom came with me to make sure I got my medicine on time. So that was the elementary school experience.
Yeah, and then the high school, you mentioned it earlier,
Right.
um, about that side of things as well. So yeah, okay. Let's just have a look at anything else that might come to mind. The real world. So the real world is when you said you went for a degree and didn't have
Right.
anything planned.
That was college and finding a job and finding my direction.
Of course, yeah. How was life like anyway going forward from there on?
It was great. I mean,
Yeah,
once I got my feet under me, I knew what I wanted to do as far as an occupation and a career. I had settled in with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife.
yeah,
We had bought an apartment together, and then I had someone else in the journey with me, and that was really great. It gave
yeah,
me
yeah,
inspiration to work, maybe some jobs I didn't really want to work, but to try and keep our lives going and to move to the next step. So that was great. We had some good times, and
yeah,
we
yeah,
got married and we bought our first house, and then we had 3 kids. So
yeah.
things were pretty great.
So life is good, kind of like after all that
Absolutely. Health wise, I'm
episode.
great. Yeah.
Pardon the pun. After the
Right.
episodes before.
Exactly. Right. That's true.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. So, what are you up to these days? I mean, you're campaigning or anything, or are you kind of like what's your profession, or are you an
Yeah.
author
Well,
full time?
this is also um, a good story. I work in IT for, it's called Connecticut Children's. It's a hospital here in Hartford.
Okay.
A lot of the people that took care of me as a baby are still there. They moved
Okay.
from the adult hospital to the
Oh
children's hospital.
wow. Oh
So
wow.
it's ironic, when I first
So you're
came,
around them.
I looked up a lot of the people that used to take care of me, and they're still there. They were still
Yeah, yeah.
working, and I reached out to them and asked if they'd like to be a part of my book, and they obviously agreed.
Oh, okay.
There were a few features done between
Yeah,
myself
yeah.
and my first doctor, because he knew
Yeah,
me
yeah.
from 6 months on.
Yeah.
So, or
That's
I'm sorry,
wow.
6 weeks on.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was really a really big deal. So I mean,
But they were
I
involved with you from a baby and a teenager both times.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Wow, that's
he took care of me, and he always told me, he said, I can take care of you until you're 21 or you're pregnant. When I was 21, I had to move on to an adult doctor who was fantastic.
Yeah, not because he was pregnant. Then.
No, I was not.
No.
Although you can't put anything past science, you never know. But yeah, after I was 21, I mean, he came to my wedding, which was amazing. But after that, I didn't really have any contact with him, and then we started working at the same place. So
and then
really great.
Was it a coincidence, or did you kind of think, oh, I know?
No, it was a coincidence. I had been looking for jobs, and they contacted me, and I felt like it was meant to be, and I did whatever I could to get the job, which I did.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then that's when you kind of put two and two together, and
yeah, absolutely. That I was in the middle of writing, and it just gave me more drive and more reason to be doing it.
Yeah. And then the research made you find out, actually, this is where some of the doctors are, that kind of thing. You didn't know before that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's great. That's really great. That's really great. What are you actually involved with any? I mean, obviously you're an author as well. You can't really put that past you. I'm an author as well, but I do it more together with some coaching and stuff like that. So it's kind of a passion thing, like yourself,
Absolutely.
Living life to the fullness kind of thing. Do you do any campaigns and get involved in that way as well?
I have. I did some library, talks where people can ask questions, and I've done some podcast interviews.
Yeah.
When I started, I did a lot of interviews of people who have had transplants. I was on a lot of the forums and blogs.
Yeah.
It was great. But yeah, I work with Michelle she helps me get the word out, get some interviews and things like that. So
I think it's
what
great
I
what
like
you
to do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's fantastic. But I mean, as far as anything else is concerned, you're now a working man, and this is kind of like it's not a side hustle, but it's
in a way it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I suppose it
I wouldn't mind if it was my primary career, but
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it hasn't gotten to that point yet. So.
Not yet. No.
Well, so you can call it that. Sure.
Well, mine pays me subsistence, so I mean,
that's good. Absolutely.
I could say I'm a professional or semi-pro.
That's good.
I've been at it for 4 years plus.
Excellent. Well, my goal, my dream would be to travel the country and talk about this stuff, talk about organ donation, talk about my journey, and hopefully inspire others. And that would be my ultimate goal. I'm trying to use the book as a springboard to that. But
that's what I did my book for. Initially it was a book only before the podcast, and it was an inspirational, motivational book, and the idea was but then obviously during the pandemic, the podcast obviously works better anyway. So
yes, definitely.
Speaking's picking up again. You can certainly use a book. The book can last 20 years and you can still go around the world speaking about
it's absolutely true.
Yeah. Your story was from 1983. I was 18 years old then, by the way. And I was in the fire service when you was probably still going through trying to get this
still a little kid. Yeah,
you're still a little kid, so. But anyway, but that's fantastic, John. As I say, I think it's great what you do. Well, it's a great story you have there, and obviously what you've gone through and actually overcome, because really it was almost written off for life, wasn't it? Really, doctors do that sometimes. Sort of say,
well, I mean, he had said he did all he could do, and it wasn't up to him anymore, and thankfully I pulled through it.
Yeah, no, that's usually the case, that people do kind of, it's down to
sometimes, unfortunately.
So well, fortunately, really.
Well, the outcome, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So
but it's hard to hear from a doctor that
well, that's it, but it's their job. I think it's their job, because I think if they did it the other way around, they said he's going to leave and blah blah blah, and I'm sure that's happened as well. But then it was
exactly
they'll get blamed for saying, well, you didn't do what you could. You said you was going to, that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. So be very careful.
Exactly. Yeah. So, well, John, really great pleasure having you on the show, and really think it's great what you're doing, and I really hope that it does take off for you with the book. And
I appreciate it.
Speaking, it's a big business out there as well, and you've got a great story to tell. So, really pleasure having you on my show, and for you to share all this and your story on my show today. Thanks very much for coming along.
It's been great. Thank you.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts, or head over to my website davepalmer.com and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.